8 minutes into Argentina's World Cup match against Austria, Lionel Messi stepped up to take a penalty. It was a moment he had experienced hundreds of times throughout his career. The stadium fell silent. Millions of fans watched around the world. Then he missed. Within seconds, reactions flooded social media. Commentators analyzed the mistake. Fans began asking questions. Because when Lionel Messi fails, the football world notices. Yet, while everyone focused on the missed penalty, a far more interesting question was being ignored. Why wasn't Messi worried? Why was there no panic, no frustration, and no visible loss of confidence? For most players, a mistake like that can change an entire match. One missed opportunity becomes doubt. Doubt becomes pressure. Pressure becomes fear. But Messi reacted differently. He simply turned around and continued playing. To understand why, you first have to understand the pressure Messi has lived with for most of his career. Unlike almost every other footballer, Messi was never judged solely by his performances. He was judged against history. In Argentina, football is more than a sport. It is part of the country's identity. And for years, there was one comparison Messi could never escape: Diego Maradona. No matter how many goals he scored, no matter how many records he broke, and no matter how many trophies he won with Barcelona, the same question followed him everywhere. Could he do it for Argentina? Could he lead his country to glory? Could he achieve what Maradona achieved? That pressure followed him into every tournament. Every match felt bigger. Every defeat felt heavier. While most players were trying to win football matches, Messi was trying to satisfy the expectations of an entire nation. The more he achieved at club level, the more people expected from him internationally. Deep down, Messi wanted the same thing the fans wanted. He wanted to bring a major trophy back to Argentina. He wanted to complete his story. And unfortunately for him, football was about to test him in ways few players have ever experienced. The first heartbreak arrived in 2014. For years, Lionel Messi had carried the hopes of an entire nation. Every goal, every tournament, and every expectation had led to this moment. Argentina had reached the World Cup final, and standing between Messi and immortality was just one match against Germany. For 113 minutes, the dream remained alive. Every touch of the ball felt important. Every attack carried the hopes of millions. Argentina believed. Messi believed. The country could almost see the trophy. Then everything changed. Mario Götze controlled the ball inside the penalty area and sent it past Sergio Romero. Just like that, the dream was gone. The image of Messi walking past the World Cup trophy after the final whistle became one of the defining images of his career. He was close enough to touch football immortality, yet somehow further away than ever. While Germany celebrated one of the greatest nights in their history, Messi was left with only questions. Would he ever get another chance? For many players, that defeat would have become the defining heartbreak of their career. For Messi, it was only the beginning. 1 year later, football gave him another opportunity. Argentina reached the Copa America final. Once again, the trophy was within reach. Once again, an entire nation believed. But when the final whistle blew, Chile were champions. Argentina had fallen short. It hurt, but what happened next hurt even more. 12 months later, Argentina returned to the Copa America final. The opponent was Chile once again. The stage was set. And for Messi, it felt like destiny had offered him one more opportunity to change the story. Instead, the story became even more painful. After a tense final, the match went to penalties. Millions watched as Messi stepped forward. The pressure was enormous. The expectations were unbearable. Then the ball sailed over the crossbar. Messi had missed. Moments later, Chile celebrated another title while Argentina suffered another devastating defeat. 3 major international finals, 3 heartbreaking losses. The criticism became impossible to escape. Every newspaper had an opinion. Every television show had a debate. Some questioned his leadership, others questioned his mentality. For the first time in his career, people openly wondered whether Lionel Messi would ever win with Argentina. Then came the moment that shocked the football world. Standing in front of reporters after the match, Messi delivered a message nobody expected to hear. He was done. After years of carrying expectations, years of criticism, and years of heartbreak, Lionel Messi announced his retirement from international football. Just like that, it seemed over. The dream had died. The pressure had finally won. And for the first time in his career, it looked like football had broken Lionel Messi. But what nobody knew at the time was that this was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of the comeback that would define his legacy forever. For a brief moment, it looked as though Lionel Messi's story with Argentina was over. The announcement sent shockwaves through the football world. Some fans understood his decision. Others begged him to reconsider. But regardless of opinion, nobody could ignore what had happened. The greatest player of his generation had reached his breaking point. Or so it seemed. Because sometimes the lowest moment of a journey becomes the moment everything changes. Not long after announcing his retirement, Messi made a decision that would alter the course of football history. He came back. Not because the pressure disappeared, not because the criticism stopped, and certainly not because football suddenly became easier. He came back because he refused to let failure write the final chapter of his story. That decision revealed something important about Lionel Messi. For years, people had measured him by trophies. They judged his success by what he won and his failures by what he lost. But the strongest part of Messi's character was never his ability to win. It was his ability to continue, to keep showing up, to keep believing, to keep moving forward when millions of people expected him to give up. Year after year, Messi returned to the Argentina shirt. The expectations remained enormous, but something about him had changed. The defeats that once haunted him became lessons. The criticism that once hurt him became motivation. The pressure that once seemed impossible became something he learned to live with. Slowly the story began to change. Then came 2021. 7 years after the most painful defeat of his career, football gave Messi another opportunity. Argentina reached the Copa America final. Waiting for them was Brazil. Waiting for them was another chance to end the heartbreak. Waiting for Messi was another moment that could define his legacy forever. This time, the ending was different. When the final whistle blew, Argentina were champions. For the first time in his career, Lionel Messi had won a major international trophy. The images were unforgettable. Messi celebrating with his teammates. Messi lifting the trophy. Messi smiling with the weight of years finally removed from his shoulders. For most players, that would have been the perfect ending. For Messi, it was only another chapter. Because there was still one dream left. One trophy that had followed him throughout his entire career. One trophy that had slipped away in 2014, the World Cup. And when that opportunity finally arrived in Qatar, Messi looked like a different man. Not because he had become a better footballer, but because he had become impossible to shake. He had already experienced football's worst moments. He had lost the biggest matches. He had faced the harshest criticism. He had watched dreams collapse in front of him. And most importantly, he had survived all of it. By the time Argentina reached the World Cup final, every defeat, every criticism, and every painful lesson had prepared him for that moment. When Argentina finally lifted the trophy, the journey was complete. The dream that had escaped him for so many years had finally become reality. And that brings us back to the missed penalty, back to the moment that caused millions of fans to panic. Because while the football world focused on the mistake, Messi focused on the next moment. He understood something that only experience can teach. One missed penalty does not define a match. One mistake does not define a tournament. One failure does not define a career. The story is always bigger than the moment. That is why he stayed calm. That is why he kept believing. That is why Lionel Messi never panics. Because after everything football has thrown at him over the last 20 years, he learned a lesson that only the greatest champions truly understand. Failure is not the end of the story. What matters is what happens next.